We are not done with the visit to the IDP camps as Ruth Aguele joins on the correspondence. You're welcome and thanks for joining us, Ruth. It's nice to have you on the program.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Good to be here.
Well, let me start with the questions. What is the state of the IDP camps in Abuja?
Thank you very much. For the Federal Capital Territory, of course, you know there are a couple of camps here that the internally displaced persons, we have the one in Karshi, you have the one in Wasa, Durumi, and also the New Kuchunguru IDP camp. Deborah, I have to be honest with you on this one, on the state of the condition of the camp. It's very, very pathetic. It's not a sight to behold, especially with the growing numbers of the displaced persons there. And the numbers are increasing because IOM and UNHCR keep looking at the numbers in terms of assessment for the decrease and increase. But following last year's flood, where more people were displaced, especially in northeast, north central, and even the middle belt, most communities were ravaged. So the internally displaced persons numbers in the country keep increasing, and these people have to leave their communities and migrate to other communities, not necessarily in their states, but to other states. And then for the FCT, one peculiar issue you find there is the aspect of reproduction, because the numbers, you can't put a data to it because of the children you see in their numbers, especially from 0 to 5 years and 6 years. The numbers are increasing. Now, the reproduction problem, it's also adding to the population of these camps. And Deborah, you also would know that aside the growing numbers of IDPs, there's also the growing numbers of refugees we have in the country, which is already a major burden for the country. But Nigeria, of course, you know, has no other choice but to, you know, embrace these refugees to come into the country. And in as much as there is structure in place. But let's keep our hopes high to see what the Renewed Hope Shelter Program will provide for these IDPs, these refugees and the poor, actually. And also the Federal Commission is also looking at areas of collaborations with stakeholders and development partners to ensure that these IDPs, as their numbers are growing, their burdens are being reduced by providing durable solutions, which is actually the way out.
All right, thank you, Ruth. The Federal Commission talked about, you know, like you also mentioned, the infrastructural development in the IDP camps. And, well, one will think that normalcy is beginning to return. Are you trying to tell us that these people are not planning to go back to their respectful homes?
From my observation, in as much as some of them want to go back to their hometown, majority of them rather, are from Borno. They'll tell you Goza town, you know, where the Boko Haram has destroyed most of their communities, which has been rebuilt actually in the northeast and even in the north central. But the challenge, the major challenge, is that majority of them here in the Federal Capital Territory have come to terms with their present reality. They have integrated with their host communities, so they embrace the life here. Some of them are engaged in some petty skills, and so it's really difficult for their mindset, that reorientation, to take them back to their communities. But that's actually what they need. In as much as you're giving them the skills here to help reintegrate them into society, and the rehabilitation aspect of taking them back to their communities is actually one of the durable solutions. And when the time comes for these numbers of the growing IDPs to return back to their communities, I'm sure they'll be left with no choice but to embrace that. Especially, you're not just taking them back to their communities, but also providing means of livelihood, which is very important. Most of them are farmers. I'm sure they want to see that security is restored in their communities and they can go to their farms and farm in peace without being scared of any attack in any form it comes, and also have other means of livelihood in their communities. But also very important is the skills that is required for these IDPs, because some of them frown to that because they don't know what to go back to. When they see strings of opportunities for presenting itself for them here, you know, and the growing numbers of the refugees also, that's also a clash with the IDPs. There's also efforts in place to ensure that refugees have camps, and that's more like a temporary settlement for them, and that's what the UNHCR is doing in collaboration with the federal government to ensure that our refugees, especially for refugees, but the IDPs is a huge burden. And we're faced in Nigeria, we're faced with a huge challenge of ensuring that their mindset, their orientation has to be properly rejigged, because a lot of them have embraced the life and the reality they're faced with. You need to go to these camps, Deborah, and see how they're living. You would just be amazed at the way they've embraced their realities.
All right, like they say, no place like home. We do hope that they'll, find their way back home someday. Now let's talk about the vision and mission of the Commission for persons in the IDP camps nationwide. How realistic is this, Ruth?
That's a tough one, because the Honorable Federal Commissioner for the National Commission for Migrants and Internally Displaced Persons is a new HFC that has just been appointed last month, and I could only tell you of his body language and what has been in place in the past, which I'm hoping that there will be continuity. His body language, he acknowledged the fact that there's a huge burden, and yes, these people are living in a very deplorable state. The condition is nothing to write home about. So he acknowledged the fact that there's a lot of work to be done that requires patience. For a developing country like Nigeria, in as much as we need the international community support, which we're already getting as a nation, there's also the need to ensure that the structure, a proper structure, is in place for the country to look at the burden, the growing numbers of the IDPs. There's also migrants attached to the Commission. There's also refugees. So it's a burden that requires lots of funding, because you're providing shelter, you're providing protection, you're providing food security. Health is not left out. And these are areas that need streamlined structures, not just in one direction. They should be streamlined to ensure that the durable solution you're providing is actually impactful in the lives of these IDPs or migrants or refugees. But I'm hoping that with the renewed hope agenda of the present administration, which we're seeing a lot of agencies and the ministries also coming in terms and aligning themselves with, and the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation has already aligned. You get to hear of their initiatives, have the renewed hope mantra attached to it. So let's hope and give the new federal commissioner time to see what he will bring on board to ensure that this burden is actually reduced from Nigeria.
Okay, so before I let you go, as a reporter, how do you think the future, how do you see the future of persons living in the IDP camps?
I like this question you just asked, because when I visited Durumi camp just this past week, I was heartbroken because I saw the numbers of the children within the ages of 2 to 5, 6, 7, not in school. And you see them just walk around. Most of them are malnourished. And it broke my heart, because I was just discussing with a colleague that these are our future leaders that need their path to be set right at this time. They need education. They need nutrition to live a healthy life. Aside giving them the education, they need that nutrition to grow well. And it's just so sad to see that. But I want to believe that with the renewed hope mantra, a lot of things will change, especially for these IDPs. And these children didn't beg to come into this world. So their future should be taken into due consideration. Most importantly, I'll say this again, Deborah, if the aspect of reproduction is put in check, especially in IDP camps, because the women, most of them are idle, they have nothing doing. So all they think about is reproduction. You see one nursing a few months old baby and holding one less than a year in her hands. So it's really sad to see that they just keep bringing these children and no any set plan for them. So it's heartbreaking when you visit these camps and you see the numbers of children in their thousands, Deborah. And I just hope that things will get better. And let's keep that hope alive, and let's not just write it off, because of course this is the era of renewed hope.
Well, like you said, let's keep hope alive. So far, so good. Ruth, thank you so much for being part of us on The Correspondent this week. We hope to see you soon for more.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Deborah.